You know, life gets hectic. We don't have no time during the day. You know, 24/7, 24/7. We're always hectic. We don't have enough time to do hardly anything. It seems like God would give us 27 hours. I don't think we still have enough time in the day. We live in a culture that's 24/7. And we got all these pressures. We got all these things. Oh, we got to keep this bill. We got to keep that bill. We got to keep this credit card. You know, if you keep adding and piling on yourselves, you're going to stress yourself out. And then we got to do all this pressure. We put pressure on ourselves to accomplish this, to accomplish that, and meet this need, meet that need. We run around like chickens with our head cut off eventually, don't we? And we wonder when do we have time? What's going on? Then we wonder why I got to take blood pressure medicine. I got to take this hypertension. Why we're stressed out. People are depressed. Why people are just barely hanging in there. There's one cure from way back when called the Sabbath that man has forgotten about. And it's not the religious burden that the church has tried to make it, and the Sadducees and Pharisees tried to make it. That was never the intent of the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made for us, mankind. And God established it from the beginning of time. When He created the earth, He created rest, the Sabbath. Genesis 2:3. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that He had rested from all His work which God created and made. So He established rest. The word rest there means Sabbath. If you want to know what the definition of Sabbath is, it's not, I got to come to church, read 2 chapters in the Bible, pray for 3 hours, and then sing for 5 hours. That's not the definition of Sabbath. And everyone in this church ought to know the definition of Sabbath. What's the definition?
Rest.
Stop!
Stop.
Cease. That's Sabbath. It has 2 B's in it, which emphasizes stop and cease the insanity of life. That's the definition of Sabbath. So, see, you guys got to get this one of these days when I preach it. Say the Sabbath means stop, cease, take a minute, pull back, and get your eyes off of everything and get it refocused on the Lord. That's what He's talking about. See, He created that pattern back in Exodus 16:29-30. Here's what He told the people of Israel. They must realize the Sabbath is the Lord's gift to you. It's not a religious burden for you. It is a gift to you. If it's become a religious burden, then guess what? You made it something you're not supposed to make it. That is why He gives you 2 days supply on the 6th day. So there will be enough for 2 days. This is when they was out in the wilderness. They had to live by manna from the sky. On the 6th day, He gave them 2 days supply. And on the Sabbath day, you each stay in your place. Do not go out and pick up the food on the 7th day. Some people still couldn't figure it out. They'd be out there on the 7th day hunting for their manna. They couldn't figure out why they couldn't get it, because that's the way God designed it. Rest on that day. Take a breath. Delight in Me. That's what He's asking about the Sabbath. Not go out and work and all this other stuff. And now He made it a commandment under Moses. Remember this? What is one of the commandments? Remember the Sabbath. In Exodus here. Remember the Sabbath. Keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work. You, your son, your daughter, your manservant, your maidservant, your domestic animals, or your sojourn within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the 7th day. That is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath and made it hollow. So He made it a commandment, because He feels like it's important. But it's important for us for other reasons than just saying our prayers and all this other stuff. It's important for us because we need a day of sanctity, a day of rest. We need a day of where we pull back from everything going on, block it out, and take a break. I just like to have a day like that. How many would look forward to just a delightful day with the Lord? Just enjoyed it, but we got to be able to what? Put down say, hey, God, this is your day. I used to go down to, we have a pond down south of our house. I'd go down there and I'd spend an hour praying with God. That was such a delight for me. And now I hardly go down there anymore because I'm getting tricked out. I'm getting more and more busy, 24/7, 24/7. And God says, saying, slapping me around, saying, son, you don't get it. Go down there. Have some time with me. You know, I don't have to go down the pond. I can do it any place. But I just need to set some time apart for God. So we can delight in communion together. Lay down whatever all this other stuff I'm doing, busying myself with. So you don't have to have a job. You can be busy doing anything else. Anything, you know. It keeps you busy. I go out there and I piddle around the garage. I do this, I do that. And I get tricked out before I know it, the day's gone. And God's saying, stop! He's telling me to stop. That's why he's having me share this. Maybe this message is just for me. He's telling me to stop and get before him. Spend some time with him. Work on that relationship. And that's what Leviticus 23 tells you. 6 days shall work be done. The 7th day is the Sabbath day, a holy convocation, assembly of my sons. We can come together on the Sabbath. We don't have to, but we can come together on the Sabbath and delight in the Lord together. We're not going to make it a religious requirement. Really, it's a time for you and the Spirit to get together and delight in the Lord. But you shall do no work on that day. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. In Exodus 31:16, wherefore the Israelites shall keep the Sabbath to observe it throughout their generations, perpetually coming. We're supposed to pass this down generation to generation. We can pass this knowledge down to our kids. You know why we got a bunch of stressed out kids? A bunch of people on drugs and they're running around, they don't know what they're doing? Because we don't pass down, hey, take time to pull back. Don't get caught up in the things of the world, all these pressures. They're in school, they got all these pressures to do this, do that. Image. All my lands, they serve image in the school. You got to look good and, you know, be this, be part of that. They have to conform sometimes, is what they pressure people into doing. God's saying, hey, step back. Give time. Take delight in the Lord. We need that time. Now we need to pass it on to our kids. Or they're not going to know to do it either. And Israel hasn't done it very well, because they're caught up in the same circle. And you wonder why we got to have blood pressure medicine, hypertension, and all this other stuff we got going on, stress. And it hasn't been passed down to us, really. We live in a culture, remember, 24/7. Go, 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 go. Go, go, go. You got to get this done. Got to get this done. Why? Well, because I'm supposed to. Why? Is it going to really value? Is it going to add life? Is it going to make you feel better? Sometimes we've got to realign what we're doing and reassign and reprioritize what I got to. I need to take more time and have a Sabbath with the Lord. I'll be better off. And guess what? It's for everybody. This is just Jewish law, Jewish Israel. No. Isaiah 56:6. I will also bless the foreigners who join themselves to the Lord to minister to him and to love the name of the Lord and to be his servants. Everyone who keeps the Sabbath so as not to profane it and who holds fast my covenant. He will bless you. How many would like to have the blessings of the Lord back in their life? Take time for it. That's all he's asking. You were designed not to do a bunch of stuff, build a bunch of stuff, do a bunch of stuff. You were designed to have a relationship with a living God through Jesus Christ by the blood. That is your purpose. That is your reason. That's why he created you, was so to have someone to talk to. He created man for a relationship, not to follow a bunch of rules, do a bunch of stuff, and all this other stuff. He wants you to take time, have a relationship with him, talk to him, but also listen to him. He's talking back. But we got to take time to turn on the spiritual ears and say, okay, Lord, I'm going to listen. And he will compel people to do it. He'll put the brakes on. One of these days, I think he's going to put the brakes on the United States and say, stop, I'll stop. I think that's coming. He did it back in Israel's days. Nehemiah 13, 16, 21. Some men from Tyre who lived in Jerusalem were bringing in fish and all kinds of merchandise. They were selling it on the Sabbath to the people of Judea. And in Jerusalem at the time, so I confronted the nobles of Judea. Why are you profaning the Sabbath in this evil way? I asked. Wasn't it just this sort of thing that your ancestors did and caused our God to bring all this trouble upon us and our city? They violated the Sabbath. That's what brought all this trouble on. Now you're bringing even more wrath upon Israel by permitting the Sabbath to be desecrated this way. Then I commanded that the gates of Jerusalem should be shut and as darkness fell every Friday evening, not to be opened until the Sabbath ended. I set some of my own servants to guard the gates so that no merchandise could be bought in or on the Sabbath. The merchants and tradesmen with a variety of wares camped outside Jerusalem once or twice, but I spoke sharply to them and said, "What are you doing out here, camping around the wall? If you do this again, I will arrest you." He got serious about this. And that was the last time they came on the Sabbath. Then I commanded the Levites to purify themselves and guard the gates in order to preserve the holiness of the Sabbath. Nehemiah had enough. God had enough. Told Nehemiah, "Stop it. You're going down the same path. You're getting in this rut. You're excluding me out." Again. He warns people about that. See, the Sabbath is to be taken on the seventh day. That's what the Bible says, all right? And that's what Exodus 28 tells us to do. And this is how you're supposed to keep the Sabbath. You put it out there. This is what you do on the Sabbath. 58, 13 through 14. If you turn away your foot from traveling unduly on the Sabbath, from doing your own pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a spiritual delight, the holy day of the Lord honorable, and honor him and it, not going your own way or seeking or finding your own pleasure or seeking or speaking with your own idle words. That's a tough one, isn't it? Boy, we let the one. That tongue gets us in trouble, doesn't it? Then you delight yourself in the Lord, and I will make you to ride on the high places of the earth. I will feed you with the heritage promised for you of Jacob your father, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. So what are you supposed to do with this on that day? Well, number one, you devote it to the Lord. Now some people break it up. How do we do? But you're supposed to at least devote some time to the Lord. They have to start out small, like in ever see the War Room? This young lady was learning how to pray. When she first started out, 5 minutes was an eternity. What do I say now to God? But she kept on, she kept on, she kept on, and finally she couldn't stop herself praying to the Lord and spending time with the Lord. That's what you got to do. It starts with small and work big. So start with maybe a smaller Sabbath and work up to it. But sanctify it, set it aside. This is not a day to do your own works, keep your own ways, and maintain the same activity. All right? It's not a day to do that. It's a day I call no expectations. Can you imagine having a day where you have no expectations for the day, except for being with the Lord? Wouldn't that be awesome? I'm not going to set this time, I got to do this, do that, do this. I'm just going to delight in the Lord. I'm not going to have no expectations. I remember one day I kind of got a headache and sinuses, and I was down for the day, I thought, oh man. So there was no expectations for me that day because I had a bad sinus headache. Charlie went to work. All of a sudden my headache went away about 9 or 10 o'clock. I had nothing to do. I had no expectations. So I was already set just to sit, relax, and man, did I have a good time with the Lord. After that. Man, I just kicked myself because I could do that more if I wanted to. If I didn't trick myself out, get busybody and do that. But I do it. Don't ask me why. I'm probably stepping on my own toes. Maybe this message richness as you teach and admonish and train one another in all insight and intelligence and wisdom and spiritual things as you sing psalms, hymns, spiritual songs, making melody to God with his grace in our hearts. And Thessalonians says, never stop praying. So really the Sabbath isn't just, okay, I want to give God an hour singing all songs and stuff like that and having a service. That's not, the Sabbath is really kind of almost like a everyday thing. But you can set at least one day aside for it. But the main thing is, it's just not take Christ with you no matter what you do. Now, well, I go to work. How can I have Christ? I got to set Christ aside, work unto the Lord. Do it unto him. Don't do it unto your boss. Do it unto the Lord. Work unto the Lord. Whatever you do it unto the Lord. Take him with you. Take him by his side. You'll find out it works better. My projects sometimes go better if I take time to say, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do? Instead of just hopping in and going, and my wife knows what happens, the disaster train wreck that happens afterwards on a project some days. It just goes worse, worse, worse. But if I take time and do it unto the Lord, take time and say, Lord, listen to him. Things might go a little bit better on that project when I do it. So I just got to train myself, as I said. So I'm going to pray without ceasing. I'm going to try to train my mind to do that. I'm going to try to do things unto the Lord and not just shut them out and do my own thing for a little bit and bring them back into it after I'm in trouble. Don't do that. Take them with you. Bring them along. Do what it says. Have it in your heart. And one thing I want to make clear about the Sabbath, I'm gonna read this so you get it. The Sabbath was made for the needs of man, not for man to meet the requirements of the Sabbath. That's what the Pharisees and some of the church have done, is made the requirement man must meet the Sabbath. It's not. It was made for man. Okay? That's in Mark 2, verse 27. And Jesus said to him, the Sabbath was made on account and for the sake of man, not man for the Sabbath. The Sabbath was for you. It was not to be a burden. Okay? That's the problem with religious organizations nowadays. They make things structured, organized, and it becomes like a burden. It's supposed to be a day, man, I can't wait for my Sabbath when I can rest and enjoy the Lord. That's what it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be excited about the Sabbath. And I said, oh, okay, I got to get my scriptures ready. I got to sing my songs. That's not what it's about. It's delighting in the Lord. Tuning in the Spirit. Basically, you got to tune out stuff and tune in the Lord. That's what you got to do on the Sabbath. See, Jesus, he snubbed the noses of the Pharisees what they made about the Sabbath. They made such a religious burden. People even hated the Sabbath. They thought it as a religious, God, man, all this stuff we got to do. So he just took that, thumped their nose at it. Especially when he dared healed on the Sabbath. Here's what the Pharisees tried to do to him. Matthew 12, 9 through 14. Then Jesus went over to the synagogue when he noticed a man had a deformed hand. Here's what the Pharisees did. Does the law permit a man to work by healing on the Sabbath? They were hoping he would say yes, so they could bring charges against him. Yeah, it worked out too good for him. He answered, if you had a sheep that fell into a well on the Sabbath, wouldn't you work to pull it out? Of course you would. And how much more valuable is a person than a sheep? Yes, the law permits a person to do good on the Sabbath. Then he said to the man, pull out your hand. So the man held out his hand, and it was restored, just like the other one. Then the Pharisees called a meeting to plot how to kill Jesus. Kind of ticked them off, because they didn't fall for his things. And he just had sometimes his people, he'd have them pick corn and thrash corn on the Sabbath. Because they made the Sabbath what God never intended. Now, did Jesus violate the Sabbath? The answer is no. Because you know why? Matthew 12:8, the Son of Man is Lord, even over the Sabbath. And then there was another instance where the Pharisees tried to trap him in Luke 14:3-6. It was about an ox and he healed on the Sabbath. He just showed him what the intent, he knew what the spirit of the Sabbath was. Is what he was doing. The spirit was for man's sake, not some religious burden where you can't do what they say you can't do. Luke 14, 3 through 6, or Luke 24, 1 through 3. But on the first day of the week, at early dawn, the woman went to the tomb to take the spices out, and they made. And they found the stone rolled back from the tomb, but when they went inside, they found the body of the Lord Jesus Christ. Now some people are not saying, why did you jump to that one? Because, well, the church, Israel had its day Saturday. The church established its day Sunday. We have what service on Sunday. And I'm going to give you a few reasons why we do that. Because on Sunday is when we do it. Well, it was on the first day, Sunday, that Christ rose from the dead. That's one reason. And there's another reason. The first day, that was the day they assembled and took the Lord's Supper on that day in the Bible. That's Acts 20, verse 1. And then 1 Corinthians, that's when they took up an offering on that day. Some of the things we do in our church is on that first day on Sunday. So the Sabbath is not necessarily a Saturday, Sunday thing, as man has made it out to be. The Sabbath is the seventh day of the week. And the Sabbath is the day. What's your seventh day? I guess is what I'm going to ask. People say, well, some churches say, well, it's got to be on Saturday. Well, I got news for them. Saturday was never created back when they created the Sabbath. Sabbath was the seventh day. Saturday is a Babylonian calendar day made by Babylonians, not God. So when they say, oh, you got to have Sabbath on Saturday, don't worry about it. They say you got to have Sabbath on Sunday, that's not what it's about. It's your seventh day. Whatever you made that seventh day to be, your week might be different than everyone else's. You don't have to follow the Babylonians. And you don't have to follow the Romans who made Sunday the official day. The Sabbath is a day you choose between you and God. Romans 14, 3 through 5. There's the Sabbath. Let not him who eats look down on or despise him who abstains. And let not him who abstains criticize and pass judgment on him who eats. For God has accepted and welcomed him. Who are you to pass judgment on and censor another household servant? It is before his own master that he stands and falls. And he shall stand and be upheld, for the master of the Lord is mighty to support him and make him stand. One man esteems one day as better than another, while another man esteems all days alike sacred. Let everyone be fully convinced and satisfied in his own mind. So you determine in your heart and your mind when you need this Sabbath, but you need this break. You need to take a step back from all this hustle and bustle. You don't even have to have a job. If you're doing this, you're doing that. You need to take a break from this, from everything. See, the Sabbath is for our body, it's for our soul, and our spirit. How many know stress kills? Is that a proven medical fact?
There's a lot of problems that leads to that.
Yeah. The body needs a day of rest. It needs a day of rest. You gotta have a day where your body can recoup. That's why you're not supposed to work. You're not supposed to hustle and bustle on that day. You're supposed to let the body relax. But it's not just the body. I mean, the old noggin gets in your way. If your body's relaxing, but you're stressing out about tomorrow, what you got to do, or you're worried about this, you're worried about that, are you doing yourself any good? You're still wearing the body out because your mind's just going nuts. And you're not relaxing. You're not taking time to take mind down then. Especially when you've been sucker punched or something's happened in your life and you're worried about kids, you're worried about family, or you're worried about meeting the next bill or whatever you got to worry about. God's saying, take time, stop. And then you need spiritual time. This is the time when you let your spirit soar to the Lord. You get, you got to eat. When you give your heart to the Lord, you have an email address. Did you know that? The Lord's emailing you. Hey, let's do this, let's do that. But how many times do we just shut them out because we're doing our own things? We're playing games. I play games on my phone. I'm doing this and doing that. Instead, I should be okay. Whoop, you got mail. Oh, Lord, you want to spend time with me today? Oh, great. Do it. Spend time with him. Talk to him. Praise him. But however that is, your spirit man will guide you on that day how to spend it, if you'll let him. Your spirit man has a say in your life too. But we basically shut the spirit man down all the time. Because the mind takes over, the flesh takes over. We got to shut that stuff off. That's what the Sabbath is all about. Shut it off. So what does Sabbath mean? Stop! Rest. Rest. That's true. Stop. Take time to stop. When America took time to shut down on Sundays, it was one of the most prosperous times this country ever had. Its production was to be done. But they shut down on Sundays. But comes along greed and everything else, now we're 24/7. And our productivity is bottomed out. It's hard to get anyone to work nowadays. I think it's time the Lord, to kind of honor the Lord, do the Sabbath. Now I'm not talking about making it a religious burden. Make it something you will enjoy in life. I'm not saying, well, you can't go fishing on Sabbath. Well, if you take the Lord with you and he brings a rod, have a good time with the Lord when you fish. But just take time to relax and take time to enjoy. He wants to delight in you. How many knows how to delight in the Lord? It takes a little bit of effort, though, but I can kick myself because I don't do it often. I should take time to delight. He wants to be a delight with you. He wants to, hey, let's do something together. But you got to turn on your spiritual ears. You got to turn off the mind and listen to what the Spirit's telling you to do that day. I can't tell you. See, it's not the church's responsibility. It's not the Pharisees' responsibility to tell you what to do on the Sabbath or prepare for the Sabbath. That's never been their responsibility. That's yours and God's. What does the Lord want you to do that day? Yeah, you might have to do something the previous day. Or, hey, let's go down the lake and talk a little bit. Well, I'm going to take lunch and stuff like that. Pack that the day before. Whatever. Take time. Because we're going to turn ourselves out. We're going to have it stressed out. You know what the answer to your stress, depression, all that stuff is? Take time with the Lord. The Sabbath. Don't let him trick you out like he tricks me out. I'm speaking from experience. I get tricked out all the time. This happens. I gotta remember Sabbath. Stop. So next time the kids want you to do something, just go, Sabbath. And walk away.